welcome. Welcome to what we call the Immersive Media Think Tank, where we try to figure out what immersive is, because then that's going to be, I think, an area of interesting discussion that we had just pre-panel. And we'll talk about some of the realities that we see today, both from some mind-blowing things, perhaps challenging your expectations of what's already in the marketplace and possible today, but also from a commercial standpoint of some examples of what is monetizing effectively, and then pointing the way to where the space is going, because again, it might, the point here is not to state the obvious, but it's to give you real examples of things that may challenge your own beliefs of what immersive is and where it's all going. So we have a great panel of people who are involved in all aspects of the business. Since it is a think tank, as I told them beforehand, there are few rules to this panel. Don't want it to be too regimented. I want to give them a chance as creators and enablers and extenders of our experiences to talk about it a little bit. And then we'll do some quick introductions, keep them brief, and then we'll have the discussion. And then at the end, if there's time, we'll try to save 5 minutes or so we can have some Q&A, okay? So with that, I'll just briefly describe who I am. So my name is Peter Ciotti. I'm chairman of my own firm, which is Creative Media. I've been in the media, entertainment, and tech space for a long time, 30 years, wearing just about whatever hat you can imagine, including being a serial entrepreneur. Now I am involved in investments, advising, M&A, and essentially things that are interesting to me intellectually. Those are the kinds of companies and technologies I'd like to get involved with. And so I'm working with a few immersive companies right now in a broad sense, and I'll get into that a little bit during the panel. But it's an area that I believe very strongly about, and so with that, I'll turn it over. Julian, why don't you take it from here, brief introduction, and then we'll just go down the panel.
Hello guys, my name is Julian Sarmiento, and I am the Chief Creative of Iconic Engine, and the focus for Iconic Engine is mostly around out-of-home immersive entertainment.
Oh, that was really quick. All right. Hi, I'm Phil Lelyveld. I work at the USC Entertainment Technology Center. I'm currently in the middle of our second Immersive Media Challenge, and in a nutshell, the challenge is, what would you like to create in 3 to 5 years that you can't easily create now? What needs to happen to make it possible, and why are your assumptions reasonable? So I got 26 student responses, and the responses have to be a 3-minute video describing your idea, and we're currently funding pre-visualization of 4 of them. It's our second time, and we're about to launch the 3rd challenge.
By the way, just quick question on that. Can we see any of those
Oh yeah,
videos?
they're all online on our website.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Hi, my name is Diego Priluski. I'm the head of Intel Studios. Intel Studios founded 3 years ago. We have a large volumetric capture stage, and we're producing content for immersive media, AR, VR, and all the interactive spectrum.
Hi, I'm Laura Hertzfeld. I'm the director of the XR News Partnership Program at Yahoo News and Verizon Media Group, and we are looking to bring more immersive storytelling distribution across the journalism space. So working with our partners, USA Today, Time Magazine, AP and Reuters, a whole bunch of others, as well as our internal partners like Huffington Post and Yahoo Sports, Finance News, all those kind of things, to kind of figure out how we can grow the number of people who are able to see this kind of content and make some really interesting stuff. And I just got there, I've been there about 6 months, and before then I was a Knight Fellow at Stanford this past year researching the intersection of immersive storytelling, art, and journalism. So.
Hi everyone, my name is Christina Lee Storm. I am over at DreamWorks Animation as Vice President of Emerging Technology and Strategy. So I head up the Advanced Creative Technology team, and our mission is to advance DreamWorks IP into new, immersive, emerging creative content on all platforms. So that we work in AR, VR, real-time, virtual production, as well as motion capture and performance animation. And my team, we run projects in those areas. Currently, we have four projects going, 3 projects currently, and then another one starting up in the beginning of next year. So it's pretty busy for us.
Great. All right. Thanks, everybody. By the way, the crispness of their answers belies the deep experience. This is a great panel. Like what you have here is deep expertise. So before we get into the main discussion, there's all these terms that are kind of flung around: VR, AR, XR, MR, immersive. So who wants to tackle just a really quick definition of those terms, and then we'll get into just another quick discussion of immersive, what that means. But anybody want to just do a quick soundbite?
I give it a try, at least from a perspective. We were talking about AR, everything that basically augments the reality. So there's always a reality that needs to be augmented. What is that type of content? And I think we're leaving it there in terms of how far can it be, and there's many interpretations on what is augmenting the reality, right? That everything will fall into that spectrum. And VR, I think we're kind of following the same lexicon of words, which is any kind of a reality that is virtual, right? Just expecting anything that exists inside you, that you're inside, which is not the real reality, but it's something virtual, it will fall on there. And I think that, what do you do on that? Yeah.
I would say also on augmented reality, you're still going to see the environment that you're in. So if I am engaging in AR through glass or my phone, I'm still going to see all of you in the environment. And then I think with virtual reality for us, you're sort of locked into a enclosed virtual space that you don't see external environments.
And then
that's what we say today.
And then mixed reality.
That's something on the middle.
Okay.
It's a mixed.
I kind of like to I kind of like to say anything that, like, MR, XR, AR, whatever you want to use, kind of interchangeable at this point, but I like to say it's anything that, yay.
She has a name.
I like to say it's anything that bridges your online world and your offline world, and keep it as simple as that. So.
Well, if I can just add, the more senses you engage, that makes it hard to distinguish between what is real and what is being digitally put before you, the more effective it is immersive. MR, XR, VR, they're all marketing terms. We have no idea where this is going to end up, because I would never have predicted that the term movies would have lasted. But we call them movies, which is a stupid word. So we'll see where this goes.
Yeah.
Well, and then, not to belabor this, but Julian, when we were walking over here, said something interesting about augmented reality. So just like 30 seconds, what you were telling me.
It's kind of interesting because I look at augmented reality just a bit different. A long time ago, somebody asked me, what is the best augmented reality app that you have seen? And right away, I was like, I think Waze or Yelp is probably the best augmented reality app out there. Because at the end of the day, what is augmented reality, right? It's augmenting our reality, augmenting what we have access to within our limitations. So I think Waze is one of those things that allows me to look into the future in a way. It allows me to look at, okay, there's traffic coming up. There's something that is happening out there that because of my limitations as a human, I don't have access to. So anyways, in Yelp, it's almost like the same thing. Like I get to know about a restaurant before I get to it. So anyways, that's just sort of my take on how I see augmented reality.
And the point being is that I think that we have these expectations of what certain terms mean, and they're not black and white. There's a lot of gray in this. And so immersive, too, when we're talking about immersive, we typically, and even the title of this panel is VR, AR, MR, things like that. But I'll give a quick example of, like, I think of immersive technology as a 360-degree dome experience. That's projections can be an immersive experience. One quick plug for something I'm not involved in at all, but if you want your heads to explode, go downtown to the Arts District and check out Wolf and the Wonder Show or Cages by Wolf and the Wonder Show, which is amazing, and that's, I would say, is immersive in a very different way that's not VR, AR. But with that, So let's get into the meat of the discussion where immersive of the day, let's talk about storytelling and some examples. Each of you give an example of immersive, no matter how you define it, that you think is breaking new ground or really exciting, and I'll leave it open-ended. And so whoever wants to start, it doesn't have to go one by the other, so.
I can start. I will touch on the augmented reality and a bit on content as more the visual. I think there is our reality that is augmented, yes, and it's we're augmented humans. Inside the media, we're really looking into the visual aspect of that little window of augmented. We did a project, Greece, if you haven't seen it, it's a multi-tab user experience. We can connect to 6 to 7, 8 tablet users that can basically experience the same content at the same time. It's a 3.5 minute content. And what we discovered in the way is that we started having this augmented reality, what we call, because it was kind of on a tabletop, but we had a lot of sets and a lot of information around it. So much information that we actually were covering that view through. So you didn't saw anymore any reality, right? And it didn't work. It became very quickly something totally else. It became very much a video game. And for us, this was a step back saying, okay, so what is the reality that we need to augment, right? So that was the question that we're asking, understanding that this for the augmented reality to work, we need to refer to the both sides and see how they work together to create content. The experience of multi-user was also very good, especially in augmented reality where people can see each other and also can share that virtual space that exists between them. We had families playing together, and I think that's a good medium that started to be for kind of short stories where you're concentrated. We're looking into taking this more into the personal space or home space, but we can have the discussion in terms of what is the infrastructure and challenges that we have thing. But that was an interesting project that we're seeing a lot of more engagement into that type of interaction.
Yeah. I can share about 2 location-based entertainment projects that we worked on for our franchise, How to Train Your Dragon. The first was we used a virtual reality, a VR motion chair called the Positron chair. And how many of you, like way back in the day, or maybe you watched in reruns, saw Mork and Mindy? So there's an egg, he comes out of this egg. Imagine you're sitting in sort of like an egg-like thing with like really cool red velvet. So that's the positron chair. And the reason why the chair is really important and interesting is because the way it pivots, it will be circular, and then it can pitch back and forth. That movement actually will help in preventing nausea or the movement that happens within the experience. So this was a virtual reality experience, and we had a partnership with Walmart's VR company that they acquired called Spatial Land. And we also were partnered with Intel and HP. And so it was a 4.5-minute experience where you could sit in a positron chair and fly through the hidden world. So the hidden world was a new world where all the dragons lived in our 3rd and final movie for How to Train Your Dragon. At the same time, we had leap motion triggered so that you could see your hands, but there wasn't anything physical that you could actually feel. But what was interesting as we did sort of exit interviews to kids and parents, they said, "Oh, how did it feel when you touched the dragon or you connected with the dragon?" And they're like, "It was awesome. It was so great. I got to bond with the dragon." And for us, from DreamWorks, as storytellers, we wanted the audience to bond with the dragon. That was one of our key things that we wanted the audience to experience. And at the end, you could there was tracking, and you could feel like you could touch the dragon. There's nothing they're touching air. But what was interesting was in the brains of all of these audience members, they felt that they were touching the dragon. And then we had this other tracking where you kind of like tickle the little baby dragons. So that was one location-based experience that we did. The second one was another one. So how many of you ever done indoor skydiving? Indoor skydiving, there's a place called iFly that's over at Universal City Walk. It was a partnership with them. Usually it's a simulation of like you can skydive like 90 miles per hour. And what they did was a few years ago they added in VR. So you could watch 360 live video like you're skydiving off of a plane over over the island of Kauai. And when How to Train Your Dragon came up, they were like, well, it would be really cool if we can incorporate flying. So what we did was, this was their very first all full CG project. All of their other projects were like live 360 VR. And so we built, basically our team kind of created like a short story of like a beginning, middle, end, where you get to choose, you want to fly with Hiccup, who's the main lead character, or Astrid, she's the other main lead character. And then the second act is we're going to race. So, base jump off of Burke. So you basically base jump, and you're flying through Burke. And then the third act is basically who won. And what was neat about what we did with that experience was we did do location scouting in VR with the skydivers. So they helped us pick, like, here's the best places to jump off of, and then where do we want to place rocks, giant boulders. How do we want to turn? We should turn here. We should add birds like obstructing your like race. So that went out to a lot of different locations of iFly. A lot of people got to experience it. The last time I experienced it in the wind tunnel, I'm like, I've seen this like, lots of times, and I'm like, I'm flying. So it was really cool because last Friday we won Best Location-Based Experience at the Infinity Festival, which was really cool. So
Cool. By the way, one other thing about that too is that I haven't experienced it, but with iFly, if you're doing that, you're skydiving, but you're not actually skydiving, but your mind is feeling like you're skydiving. That's another application of VR, of course. It's addressing phobias like that. So for me, since I haven't skydived, I'm going to go there. Okay.
Can I do one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So I see lots of technology and lots of demos, and every 6 or 8 months I see something that marries technology and art in a way that I'm just blown away, that's just magical. And one that you can experience, because it's on consumer headsets, which I saw maybe a month and a half ago, is called Gloomy Eyes. I don't know, has anyone here seen Gloomy Eyes? It was just this amazing marriage of storytelling. It's a virtual reality experience, but it's like a stop-action animation movie that takes place all around you, and the set changes and you rotate, and it's slow, but it's extremely detailed, so you can look at the sets as the characters are talking. It's narrated by Colin Farrell, and it's just beautiful.
I'm going to go a little against the grain, and actually, for me, one of the most exciting AR apps in the past maybe 7 years. So actually, I'm going way back when. It was actually an app called Zombie Run. Basically, it was an audio AR app and uses geofencing and geolocation to trigger audio clips as you walk in the real world. And it was such an interesting application because that was one of the first things that sort of educate me about challenging what we all, because we tend to be very repetitive, let's not drink our Kool-Aid and say we don't do that. We tend to be very repetitive. We tend to see what succeeds with one IP, and then we try to clone it. We saw that a lot with Pokemon, right? Once Pokemon became successful, everybody else tried to clone it. Obviously, we all know why Pokemon was so successful beyond the IP. But that one was an interesting IP because basically all it was audio. It was using geofencing and geolocation, which is technology that has been around for a very long time. Let's call it just GPS. And it was fully immersive. As you were walking around the streets, it would tell you like somebody's coming behind you and run faster, and then you hear sounds coming all around you. And you were wearing these headphones.
And then you get hit by a car.
And you get hit by a car. But the funny thing about it is then it actually did two things. One of them, it allows you to be in a different type of storytelling, which is very unique on itself. And the second thing, it works out really well as a workout app.
There you go. Can I jump in?
Yeah, Laura.
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to talk about a couple of projects that we launched really recently. Two of them came out this week on Yahoo News. And the things we're trying to solve for are really distribution. Right now in the news space, everything kind of requires an extra AR app to download. And so how could we integrate these AR and immersive experiences into the Yahoo News app? And right now it's only on iOS, but next iteration, we're very close to releasing on Android and a web AR version as well. So kind of testing it out to see how our users respond here, but very, very soon in a lot of places. And, we're really lucky because Verizon Media Group has Riot Studios as our in-house production partner for this step. But, when we were setting out to say which types of experiences work in news, we kind of had a big brainstorm and obviously thinking about like big tentpole news events. But one of the things that we felt really strongly about recently was the California wildfires and how, it's an experience that if you don't live here, I don't think you really understand how close that stuff is and how real it is. So we really wanted to figure out how we could bring our users into that story. So we focused on the anniversary of the Paradise Fire, but also kind of made it a much broader thing where, obviously these things are happening now. Nobody wants to just sort of think about something that happened a year ago and how this town is rebuilding when other things are, burning. But we went up to Paradise, and this was really an experiment in like how can you kind of cover things in the field and create something in AR quickly and turn it around. So we went up to Paradise. We met a family who are rebuilding their house in Paradise. It had been completely burned to the ground, and they have the structure of it there now. So we did a 3D photogrammetry model of the house that they're rebuilding, and then interspersed kind of historic family photos. They've been in this town a really long time. They have a lot of ties to the community. So we kind of did, it's almost like an immersive audio slideshow because you're really taken through this family's experience. And to me, it was very much like, this stories are about people. Like your AR experience is only as strong as the story that you're telling. And so it's pretty cool. I encourage you to check it out. We also packaged it with a lot of reporting in this space that McClatchy is doing with the Sacramento Bee. And they had done a lot of drone photogrammetry of some spaces up in Paradise. And the way I look at that stuff, I really see kind of two things. I think there's opportunities for big tentpole stories, kind of like the bigger Paradise piece that we did. But then the next generation of the multimedia editor at a newsroom is going to be doing these smaller scale 3D animations, 3D photogrammetry versions, and really quickly incorporating them into stories. Like the New York Times is doing this really well with like the inner scroll stuff that they did with David Bowie and a few other things. And I just think that's getting cheaper and easier and more accessible. So, yeah.
Excellent. And one point on like this citizen journalism stuff, or just journalism in general. When you're doing the Paradise Fires and you're getting people who are engaged in a different way rather than just reading the words on the page, they really feel, and it's the empathy that comes from that, and also the mobilization that can come from actually now they're emotionally attached to that story and they will take action in a way that is otherwise not possible. And there's some really interesting experiences out there, like one of the seminal ones, Clouds Over Sidra, like that one, and the one that was at in the Del Toro, and it was about the immigration. Yeah, like that was really interesting. And then I mentioned Wolf and the Wonder Shop. I'll say one because I want to describe it a little bit more. It's not like these. It's not VR, it's AR. I would consider it immersive out-of-home entertainment. And the best way to think about it is that it's kind of a combination of Les Mis meets Kanye West meets cinema meets Sleep No More and meets like holographic things. So it's a combination of everything, but it's something that is really worth checking out, and it's downtown LA, just opened up, and it's nowhere else, but it's really breaking new ground, so I think that's fascinating. Let's get into now brands, and so storytelling in a different way, because the brands need to tell stories and engage an audience. So if we could just, once again, give some specific examples, keep it short, about, I guess, first, how brands should think about this opportunity and whether it's here, now, can be impactful, and then maybe give an example of something that has been successful in the way that they defined it themselves. So who wants to start that one out? Julian?
We actually created something. Actually, there was I think it was, I believe it was one of the first with Red Bull actually. And I'm looking at you, Mr. Pattison, the guy behind it. We actually worked with Red Bull, and this collaborate. So this is what we ended up doing. They had this competition where people are jumping their bikes down the hill, and it's really crazy and gnarly. And what we actually ended up doing, we actually ended up merging multiple technologies. First of all, we were able to volumetrically scan the whole entire mountain. And after doing that, we were able to create an AR app. And after we created the AR app, we were actually able to put hotspots within the AR app that allows you to teleport to those locations through VR. So the funny thing about this whole entire thing, even though it seems sort of like pieced together, everything was so cohesive. Then people responded really well to that specific app. And I believe it's the most downloaded app ever. Would you mind adding more?
It's the number one digital activation we've ever had.
The biggest digital activation, yeah. And I think the main reason behind that is because it was the right audience. It was the right audience, and it was the right people. We were know your audience. You know, that's the thing coming from the agency space. It's always like know your audience, know your audience, know your audience. That's the equivalent of location, right? And with Red Bull and this, it was the right audience. It was the right demographic. And it was also, the brand itself wasn't just letting us do all the work. They were also pushing it themselves, which helped as well. You know,
What were they what was Red Bull trying to accomplish? Like, what was the performance metric that they had hoped to see? So the KPI of success?
I mean, for them it's really simple. For them it's really, there's two things, awareness and downloads. That's really what it comes down to. And we were able to achieve both, right? The most downloaded app, you know, and then after that, obviously, it was all over the press. So that was a win-win situation with them. But once again, it was really just about knowing the audience. I'm not sure if that experience of that app would have worked for anybody else or a different brand, but that was the right app for the brand, for the audience.
And Red Bull's an interesting company because it's really a state of mind, right? Yeah, so it's a state of mind, and so you're creating content for content's sake too, because it's part of the brand.
15,000 downloads the first half hour.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so it was just, you know, it was incorporating all the media that we know, AR, VR, MR, 360, live 360.
Oh, it was live. It was live. Everything was happening live, streamed in real time.
Portals.
Yeah, all the portals, AR, VR, real time. Why everything was being broadcast live in streaming, in live TV.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
So
cool.
we had the broadcast built into it, so if you tune into it, the mountain drops from the table, you can rotate it. And
Yeah.
then we can put the riders' lines in it, you can see where the riders are going.
Can you? Hopefully, you can hear that. No, join us. Philip, how about you?
Oh, I just want to throw out, because that's, the specific question isn't my area, but I've got a coworker who, Eve Berquist, who is an AI expert who's working on story graphics, which is, you had demographics, psychographics. Story graphics looks at affinities of people who like the same type of story, and he's linking that to all types of content on a frame-by-frame basis, balancing that against what's happening in society, the weather, the traffic, that sort of thing, and trying to see relationships. But so that's research we're getting into.
I can share on brands a bit some trend that we're seeing. We're doing some commercial work in terms of advertisement and commercials to promote different brands. Most of the trend that we're seeing now is less app distribution and more local-based augmentation of VR or AR experiences. So if a brand is going to be putting a display show or doing some kind of an opening, they will be looking today more for this type of AR, VR content that can augment the space and bring more motivation and excitement to visit these spaces. We did one for a telecom company where we reproduced a few key moments, plays from the NFL, in volumetric video. And then in this location, the people that came can revisit that in three-dimensional space and navigate through it and kind of make their call. It was a very good activation and on that aspect, and I think it's more obviously relates to the challenges that there are in terms of distribution of this more augmented content today everywhere. But I think it relates a bit in terms of looking at the revenue or the impact that you can make with these experiences. We're seeing a lot of value on the local-based kind of experience.
Can you touch upon that a little bit? Because I was just going to ask you that it sounds exciting, but what is the brand trying to accomplish, and how do they link success with that in driving revenues?
I mean, as any brand, as any advertiser, you want to bring awareness and throughput through a location. I think you want people to come to the space and take with them something that will remind, and they will want to tell about it or talk about it. And today, I guess that spotlights are not enough. There's something more needs to happen on the space, or people will go and either share it socially or take it with them and talk about it. And at the end, that's kind of the brand that you will bring in terms of that activation.
Yeah. And that was something we were touching upon a little bit before the panel too. So the out-of-home experience and that kind of immersive too. So everybody is increasingly heads down on this. It's this almost like a counter reaction. People going out, coming up with experiences that you haven't had before. So they're memorable. They're memorable. They're shareable, and that's a big part of what's going on in the overall space. And we're touching upon just some examples of that, but it's exciting.
Oh, sure. So I guess, you had asked at the beginning of that question, when is it worth it for, to create something for a brand? And I feel like the Red Bull example is great because I think the audience for Red Bull is really ripe for that kind of experience. They're pretty tech savvy and young and all of that kind of stuff. In a previous life, I worked with a lot of beauty YouTube influencers, and the stuff that YouTube is doing in AR, overlaying some of those experiences and being able to connect to brands, how you can, buy this lipstick, when, all that kind of stuff, I think is really great, and obviously speaks to an audience that is shopping all the time, is really interested in this stuff. It's very useful for them. It's second nature for them to be on YouTube and using these new types of technology. So I just always want to keep that stuff in mind. So.
We have a project, can't really talk about too much, but I can tell you it's tied with our Trolls World Tour project. That's a movie that's coming out in spring. But it is tied with a brand. And so what's exciting on that side is that we are finding brands that make sense to our characters, our IP. And I think what I could say is
But is that unique to the immersive space?
Yeah, it will. It is AR related, so it's tied with a brand, and then it's like unlocked, and then there's a tie-in with our characters. So I would say, to be honest, on the brand side, what really excites you, I think we're yet to see that. I think there's so many potentials in this space where it's a bit more seamless. It's not too clunky. The makeup stuff, there's stuff that's coming out that's out on Facebook, and it's kind of good. It's still a little bit clunky, but I think that the seamlessness, and that's just in general with brands and whatever that intellectual property is, I think that's where that's the new space that we want to be in, where it's not. The audience doesn't feel like the brand is infringing on their viewing or their storytelling.
There has been two recent collaborations that I think have been quite successful. And the first one is Porsche collaborating with ILM in Star Wars. I think that's it's such a on-point collaboration that it just makes sense because both companies, obviously they have a very interesting demographics, and the other one is Louis Vuitton collaborating with Fortnite, and most recently with what was the Riot Games game, the tournament, League of Legends. There you go. But anyways, I think the future is also in collaboration stuff. I think if you have the power to actually connect the dots, I think there's a lot of opportunities on the table for brands, and I think brands are open to that nowadays.
And also the global aspect of it too, you know, the borderless society and all that, and some of these experiences perhaps are a little bit less language or more language agnostic in a sense, potentially.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we talk about any of these opportunities, and I'll say it in a broad sense, do you believe, and you in a broad sense, that there are specific things that are holding you back from realizing the vision that you have for Immersive?
Budgets?
Or, well, just with this, what is holding, let's start with the industry itself, because a generality out there is that virtual reality would be much bigger than it is today. So a couple years back, there was great excitement in the venture capital community about investing in the VR space. And it's not like 3D TV, you know, where 3D TV kind of came and crashed and burned. Things are just going more slowly. So what is holding that back? Let's start with VR, and then we'll
I
broaden
think
it.
it's adoption. So it's the adoption of the headsets to market. Right now, like the early adopters are the ones that have it. And what's great, I am excited, and I usually end up talking about it, is the Oculus Quest. So the Oculus Quest is standalone, and it's so easy to use. Like, it's amazing. You just put it on, and it's not like you have to plug it into a computer. You have your your hand consoles, and then you just like basically form your guardian where you are going to be, and it's so easy. So I'm hearing stories from folks like, you know, I just got my Quest. I'm like watching Netflix. I mean, they're watching Netflix in it, you know, or they're addicted to Beat Saber. And I think the Quest, I think that's things like that where you make it easier and you make it affordable. You put great content on it. The Vader Immortals on it, and a lot of other content's coming out. And that, to me, is what helps to feed the marketplace. And for us, it's like more that there's a marketplace, there's more of a business model, there's more input into it. And so I think there's an audience part to it, but then there's always, like, as artists, we are always going to have way more of an appetite to want to do certain things than maybe the tech can do. That's just part of the rub between art and tech.
Christina, and I do agree with you. I think the Quest is a beautiful device, but one of the things that I feel like is holding us back is still content. It's funny because every time we talk about the Quest, it's funny, you actually like Beat Saber. Because it's technically the only thing on the Quest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You buy your Quest and it's kind of like 2 or 3 apps in it, you know? Honestly, even after all these years and we've been saying content is king, I don't think anybody's listening because there hasn't been any content. And you go to these libraries, you know, I was really excited when I got my Quest as well, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to just burn money now. There was nothing to burn money on. I was just going through the thing. I'm like, okay, that's free. That's YouTube. Okay, that's this and that. Netflix, I'm already paying for it. So what I'm using my money here for.
So,
and I think, content is just
all right, I want to change it. Not content, experiences.
Yeah.
Content is one type of experience. Virtual reality meetup groups are growing right now. So you got to get your mind away from the Rick and Morty, everybody strap a box on your face. It's not about the hardware, because I'm starting to see VR glasses that look like sunglasses. They're coming along, or have a pixel-based occlusion, so you can have AR glasses that make virtual things look really good. It's really about creating appropriate experiences for the market and getting the equipment that delivers that's right for you. Like, I personally am a huge fan of the Bose sunglasses, which are only audio. They're not visual, but you can walk around the city. It'll tell you where to walk to get to your destination. It'll play your music. It's like earbuds, but they look like sunglasses. Similarly, the North glasses, which only have images in one eye, and it's just one color, but it it does a function really well. And that might be where the market's going to be. It'll be fragmented until we come up with that killer piece of hardware that everybody decides to buy, like Apple earbuds. And then the market will become a mass market. But right now, it's like B2B, and it's specialized applications. But it's about the experience. It's not about the hardware or the software.
So on the experience side, do you think that there's anything about the fact that there's perhaps more of a need for communal aspects or communal experiences when we're talking about VR? So one of the things that may be holding it back is that it's solitary in some way?
Well, it's not really solitary if you go into a VR meetup.
Yeah.
But
that's communal.
But it's also, don't think it has stopped and now we have to make it work. It's evolving rapidly. People are working on the sensors inside the glasses that will allow you to create an avatar of yourself that the other person sees your whole face, not your glasses, and things like that.
But
it's evolving.
The communal aspect of it, I think, is up for interpretation, because if anything, I will say watching TV used to be more communal than it is nowadays. We used to sit in a living room and watch a movie, the whole family. This is how we watch movies now, right? In bed with our phones in front of. So what exactly defines a communal experience? So I still don't know whether the whole VR thing has to be communal or it can be just individual, because technically a lot of the stuff that we're doing is more narrow than it used to be, right? People are not going to the movies anymore. People are not watching TV in their living rooms anymore. I mean, the biggest thing nowadays is then, multiple studies have come out and people are watching TV in their living room, but they're holding their phone in front of their faces. So.
And just very quickly, VR is an end member of the continuum. VR is 100% isolation. It goes all the way over to just slight augmentation to clear, here's the real world.
Okay, so I'm going to we could talk about this. One thing, I want to throw out one company. I think Red Pill VR is doing interesting things in the VR space where you have a DJ who's actually DJing. It can be, and they're interacting with the crowd, and you're able to participate as in avatar form and bring your friends into the environment. It's pretty mind-blowing too. So that's one to check out, Red Pill VR. We have to go pretty rapid fire. Let's talk about 5G for a second and how that's going to impact immersive. So just really quick, does anybody?
Okay. That's my question, Jada, all of the brazenness. So look, I mean, I think obviously we know everything is going to be faster. It's going to be, I think live streaming in all of these spaces is probably the biggest and first thing that's going to happen. But the reason that Yahoo and Verizon Media Group are making content in this way is to see what works best for 5G. We're really, bullish on it. Obviously, it's coming soon. It's not coming immediately, but, in the next couple of years, it will be everywhere, I think. And, it kind of offers a lot of different things. I personally think it offers a lot in the reporting space. There's a demo at our 5G lab in New York where it's looking at traffic patterns and being able to predict, like when a bike is coming down, how many bikes are coming versus how many cars versus how many taxis, and being able to sort of parse out traffic patterns and make things safer in that way. So I think there's just so many applications from that to, just scanning things at the supermarket, what has, allergens in it, just being able to like hold your phone up and see things very quickly. So there's a lot of different applications for it, kind of more than we're able to know what they are right now. But it is like that transition from, when you had to wait for your video to buffer and we all got used to that. And then now it's like you expect it to be there immediately, and it's going to be, probably more than 10 times faster than that. So. Okay,
now, and lightning round. So we're not talking about next year. Let's go way out. In 10 years, what do you see as the possibility in immersive?
It's like,
who wants to touch that? Well, yes. Minority Report, or is that too obvious?
I don't think it will be much. I'll tell you. I don't think it will be much different from what we're talking today in terms of VR, AR. Those are new mediums that are really at the beginning, and this is what we're discussing. And in 30 years, they will be very mature to the aspect that you will not feel that this is something that you're making an effort to consume, but it's really just a commodity. I think, and this is where we're looking.
But
to
the devices will change
The devices will
significantly.
change as you used to have, a big phone, and now you have a small phone, and then from a small phone went to a bigger phone. You remember when like whoop 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 whoop, Things change and adapt. And in 10 years, I think we're going to benefit a lot from what we're developing today. Yeah.
Philip, what are you saying?
So I'll say 10 years and probably 5 years.
Okay.
Anything on your body is going to be very lightweight because all processing will be done in the cloud. You'll have persistent coverage all over the globe, including the middle of the Mojave Desert. And the whole concept of personal data and privacy will be totally redefined, and most people won't care.
Okay.
That's sad. That is sad. We won't get, that's a different panel. I would say, as humans, we still want to be a part of a story. We want to hear stories and watch them, and so that won't go away. I think.
And share together.
Yeah, that's the human condition. It's just we want to be able to do that with each other, and so I think that what I hope for is not that there's I don't believe there's a replacement. I think these are just additional options for us and things that hopefully make our lives better. Like the Yelp and Waze, I use those apps all the time. But I think that it's not a necessary replacement. It is a augmented piece of content that will enhance things. I think for us, we're always as humans going to want to try and figure things out, problem solve things in a way, make it better, and we'll probably go back to the drawing board as basics. To be honest, is there something compelling to us in terms of like story? So
I'm going to start with you since you just finished up, and then we'll go down this way. For the benefit of the audience so they can check them out, one company that you believe is in this overall space that is under the radar, but that is worth elevating. Or somebody else want to start while she's thinking?
Okay, I can say something because our center doesn't endorse any company or product or technology, but you're about to see a whole bunch of conferences on virtual beings, and companies like Artie and Fable Studios and others working in that space are going to be very active, and the whole idea of virtual beings is going to accelerate as 5G rolls out.
He called out the company I would talk about as Fable. Yeah.
Fable.
Yeah, Wolves on the Walls.
It's a great piece of content.
Okay.
Wolves on the Walls.
I'll go.
And Baobab is also like the friends of DreamWorks, because a lot of folks who were part of our DreamWorks Up North facility, they're part of that group. And the Bonfire, which was premiered at SIGGRAPH, is a great piece of content that you can see on the Quest. Just add that.
Okay. While you guys think about it, I want to throw out just one concept about that. Let's not forget about projections too, because I think we haven't talked about that, but projections can be deeply immersive, and there's a company out there called Vortex. Ed Lance right there, founder. Didn't even know he was there, by the way. Had no idea. But Vortex Immersion Media doing great things in the immersive 360 degrees dome space, and it's as Ed would describe it, it's community VR, because you have this immersive experience stripped away from a headset, and you can also have virtual us interplaying and interacting with the crowd that's within. So check out Vortex, because that's another interesting company.
And let me just add to that, Wisdom downtown LA, and next year the Madison Square Garden Sphere in Las Vegas.
The Sphere.
15,000 seat, I think.
Yeah. Do you know about the Sphere? MSG Sphere? That's another one where MSG's trying to reinvent the Madison Square Garden Group, trying to reinvent the venue experience. And so they're building the first one, it's $400 million, $300 million in Las Vegas, and the second one in London. And what Ed is doing is analogous to that on a broader scale, scaling it out in multiple locations. So,
I will follow up on that direction in terms of immersive media beyond the VR and AR headset. There's a lot of companies, I will not specify a name, but a lot of companies looking into the alternative to that device. And we're very much in the lookup and working with Few in terms of how do you bring these augmented spaces but without the constraint of the device in open spaces. That's projection, it's holographic displays, and many more solutions that are coming up. So that's a good lookup.
Yeah, I wouldn't call them under the radar, but Meow Wolf is
Meow
really
Wolf, yeah.
amazing, and
Yeah.
they're doing really cool stuff all over now.
And they've raised
Yeah.
well over $100 million
Yeah.
in capital, so that's a company you need to know about, for
Area
sure.
Area 15 in Las Vegas, they're going to be
Yeah.
featured
Right.
in this large, like,
And they're
giant
building in
thing.
Denver,
Worth
and that's
going to
going to
Santa
be,
Fe and seeing their bowling alley.
But how do they clean it?
well, yeah. So I think it's 2:40, and I was told that we have to end it at 2:40 because there's another panel. But who's with the, okay, we'll ask a couple questions. You first, glasses?
Yeah.
Who are you, state your name and then.
Sure. My name's Nicholas Hanna. I'm a guest speaker here as well. I'm a filmmaker who has a couple movies on Amazon right now. I'm actually developing a new science fiction project that I took to Sony that they're interested in. And it's specifically set in the future. It deals with a virtual reality world. And I'm looking to kind of get some information and partner with VR companies as we slate and prepare this project. So that's part of my interest in staying in this panel. Here, so I'd love to talk. And if there's any companies, you kind of did it with that last question, but any companies I need to reach out to, that's what I'm hoping to gain from this discussion.
I have a company to reach out to, so we can talk about it on the side, and then they will too. But I have this young gentleman over here. I need to end, yes? Okay. So hopefully it was helpful. Great panel. I enjoyed it. So thank you guys.